So we need to remember that project manager spends 90%, that's a benchmark, 90% of the time a project manager goes off in communication management. Going forward, then if anybody asks you inside your team or your manager saying that you don't, what is the work that you do, it's communication and ensuring that people are aligned to the stakeholders' requirement and the project's requirement, right? That's a major work of project manager. That they are a manager. They are managing the entire project delivery towards its positive outcome, and they do it by communication, right? So, and then PMI recognizes that, and that's why it's given over here as well, that 90% of the time a project manager goes off in communication. Now, what are the different processes that we have in communication management? We first need to plan. What is the plan? What is the type of communication that we are going to follow? Are we going to interact with our stakeholders? If we have to interact with whom we have to interact, is it the is the inventors or is it the investor with whom we are going to have interaction in terms of one-on-one communication or the meetings? Or is it effective for us to send out emails? If there are too many stakeholders, are we going to be sending out emails? If you're going to send out the emails, then what is the frequency of sending out the emails? Is it possible for us to send out emails, or should we follow the physical mail? For example, if it's a defense project that you've got, you won't be able to send out emails, right? That's prone to get hacked. In that situation, you would need to choose a different technology. So what is the mode of communication? What is the method of communication? What is the technology that you're going to be using? If there is any change required to it, how would you be doing the change? All of that gets mentioned in the plan document. After you've planned it, you need to get it signed. You need to get it approved. Before approval, the stakeholders might request certain changes. Once it is approved, it becomes your document. It becomes your Bible. It becomes your, you are going to follow it. So while following it, while executing, you will be managing the communication. That is to manage it effectively to ensure that the desired results are achieved using the communication. And if there is any change which is required in the communication, maybe initially you plan that you are only going to be sending out the emails on a monthly basis, but then you don't think it is effective anymore and the stakeholders are getting jittery about it, then you might have to increase the frequency, or you might have to create a portal in which you have dumped all the information and any of the stakeholder can go and pull the information as per their requirement rather than they waiting for you to send them the email. So is it push, pull, interact? What is the method? All of that, you're going to control it, right, eventually. Which is to ensure stakeholders' communication requirements are met with appropriate changes in case of deficit communication or cut down excess information flow. That is what we have in the control communication. Let's look at the plan communication management. Now in plan communication management, we look at the requirement. What is the requirement of my stakeholders? Do they require a lot of interaction? Do they require weekly updates, monthly updates? Do they require to get the information whenever they need, or are they comfortable with getting the emails? What is the requirement? So we'll find out the requirement, then we'll look at the technology, right? Technology depend upon the complexity and the type of the project. As I said earlier, if it is a defense project, you won't be able to use emails. You should not be rather using emails, because with that, what will happen is a defense project is highly sensitive and it's highly confidential. Your information might get leaked. So in that situation, you might be using US Postal Service or secured mail you would be using. Communication model is very simple. That's just one way of looking at. There's just one way of looking at it. That is, whenever I'm sending out some information, I need to ensure that the person receiving it is decoding the information in the right manner, in the intent of in the right intent of the message. So whenever I'm sending the information, I'm encoding the information. I'm encoding my thoughts into certain language, and the way I draft the email also. Now, if I have to draft an email and send it out in India, I probably would need to be very careful with the words, because here a lot of people, they tend to find out read between the lines, whereas in the United States that probably is not going to be a problem at all, right? So the content, the content of the email depends upon which location, which geography that you are in as well, right? So that is your communication model, which is sender encodes, sends, there is noise in between, receiver receives information, decodes it, and understands it. Then we have the method push, pull, interact. These are the methods with which the communication can be done. Very important parameter about, from here at least 3 to 4 questions come from the communication channel analysis. Now, what is the use of communication channel analysis? I will just get into that in a brief moment. Before that, let me explain you what is communication channel. So to explain this, let me just try and find out a blank slide here. Yeah, let me use this slide. Okay, let's say I am communicating. A is communicating with B, right? There are two people. How many communications can happen? Only one, right? A and B can talk to each other, right? That's the max that can happen in this situation. Let's say if we have three people, A, B, and C. How many communications can happen now? A can talk to C, or C can talk to A, C can talk to B, and A can talk to B. So there are three communications together that can happen in this situation, right? C simultaneously can talk to B and A, and B can talk to A. So there are three maximum communications that can happen in this situation. What if you have, so this is first situation, this is second situation. Let's increase the number of people that are involved in communication, or the number of people that we have. So we have A, B, and then we have C and D. So 4 people are there. How many communications can now happen? A can talk to B, right? B can talk to D, C can talk to D, A can talk to C, and at the same point of time, A can also talk to D, and C can talk to B, right? So how many communications are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So with this, it came as 1. For 2 people, it came as 3. How many communications can happen together? 3 in the second situation, and in the third situation where 4 people are involved, we saw it is 6 together communications that can happen. It's slightly difficult to calculate it the way I have told you. Otherwise, you would be keep on drawing the lines and then calculate it. There is an easier formula to calculate this. The formula is n into n minus 1, right, divided by 2. That's the formula to find out the communication channels. This is the formula to calculate the communication channels. How many communications can happen together? Let's try to fit this formula now. 2 people are there. N is the number of people that are involved. So 2 into n minus 1 becomes 1, divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. 1 into 1 is 1. This comes as 1. If there are 3 people, then it should become 3 into 2 divided by 2, which also comes as 3, which is exactly matching the number that we calculated earlier manually. Now let's look at the other one, the 4 people that we have. 4 into 2 divided by 2. Oh, sorry, 4 into 3 divided by 2, right? 4 minus 1 is 3. So 2 into 3 is 6, right? So this is how you will be calculating the communication channels. Now we have learned how to calculate the communication channel. From the exam perspective, the question that you can expect is, they will give you a situation, you are the project manager, there are 5 people reporting to you. How many communication channels that we have? So you are a project manager, 5 people report to you. How many people total we have? 6 people, right? So project manager plus 5 people, PM plus 5 team members, right? So this becomes 6. For 6, how many communication channels that we can have? 6 into 5 divided by 2, which is going to be 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 into 5 is 15, right? Quite simple to calculate that. This is how they will ask you to calculate it. Now you will probably ask me, why are we calculating it any which ways? What is the use of it? PMI doesn't get into the use of communication channels. PMI doesn't say anything about the communication channel. What is the most appropriate communication channels? How many communication channels you should be having in your team? Well, it's just a way for you to understand the complexity of the communication within the team. The larger the network, the larger the communication channels, it gets very complex for you as a project manager. So if it's too huge, then you can then you need to give out or delegate certain responsibility of few of the stakeholders to some of the team members. It could be a dedicated person to do communication with the stakeholders, right? You might hire a dedicated person just to do communication if it's too complex. Another theory is that if there are more than 8 people inside the team, then the communication channels becomes complex and groups tend to form up, right? So that's just a theory again. How many communication channels are you comfortable with? What is the complexity of communication in your team? That is what is coming out of this. What is the rule of how to handle it? Left up to you, right? You can handle it yourself. It is completely left up to you. There's no specific guideline for what should be the most optimal communication channel. This is only telling you how complex your network is, right? So this is about the communication channel. Now let's get back to the slide that we left. Right. Here, how many people that we have? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now let's try and calculate the communication channels here. Just by looking into the lines, we will cut across the lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right, 19, 20, there should be one more. Right here, 21, right? So all the lines have cut across now. Now let's see, these are the maximum number of communications that can happen together. A can talk to D, at the same time A can talk to E, and so on. So maximum 21 communications can happen with 7 people. Let's calculate it. 7 into 6 divided by 2, it comes as 21, right? So this is how you will calculate your communication channels. And at least expect 4 to 5 questions from this formula itself. Very simple formula to remember, but then yes, 4 to 5 questions will come out of this one. All right. Communication technology. Communication technology is, which is the technology that you're going to be using? Is it email? Is it physical mail? Is it telephone? Is it satellite phone? It depends upon what it depends upon. Sensitivity of the information. Is it defense project, normal project, urgency at which you need to communicate, availability of the technology also. If let's say email or the phone is just not available, you cannot use it also, right? Communication method that we spoke about earlier. Communication model that we have, sender encodes information, transmits it. There's some noise in between in which the information tends to get lost a little bit. Receiver receives it, decodes it, and acknowledges it, right? So this is the model which remains same. Communication method, there are different methods that we have: interactive, push, and pull. Interactive is, I'm talking to you, you can talk to me, you can ask me any number of questions. That becomes an interactive session. Push is if I record all my content, right? If I record the content and you have to just go through that content. For example, every day I'm sharing the email with the recording of this particular session. And I send out an email to you. That's a push, right? That's push method, where I'm pushing the information to you and you're supposed to listen to it. Pull is I upload the information into a portal, right? I upload the information into a portal. Whenever there's a requirement, you go into that portal, pull the information yourself. Typical example of that is in your company, if you have any technical issue, you call the service desk, right? At times, the service desk says that, okay, there is a portal, self-service portal, the information is already available over there, go and take it. So you go into the portal, find out the most common issues which which have been already logged over there and how to resolve them. You get the information from there and resolve it. So that is an example of pull. When you face an issue, you go into the self-service portal, try to get that information. That's example of pull. Often in our projects, we use a combination of all these three. We interact with the with high power stakeholders, which is most likely inventors and investors. We push the information to certain low power stakeholders, often impacted, and pull, again impacted whenever they need some impacted, and inventor and invested. All three categories, they generally pull the information depending upon the requirement of any particular document or of any particular record. The most optimal communication methods we have, again, these are different type of communications which can happen. So we have formal written, formal verbal, informal written, and informal verbal. From exam perspective, they will give you a situation and they will say this is an example of, is it formal written, formal verbal, and so on. So formal written, the purpose is to detailed explanations. We have non-face-to-face communication in formal written. Formal verbal, the purpose is conferences, meetings, when we have the meeting with our stakeholders and we give them, let's say, have a brainstorming session, or we are trying to give out status updates or monthly checkpoint meetings, that becomes my formal verbal. Informal written, quick delegations to my team member where the actions and steps have been documented and sent out. Informal verbal, maybe I'm meeting for a coffee, maybe I'm meeting on a lunch with my stakeholder, that becomes my informal meeting. Communication management plan consists of all of these, which we just spoke about some now. And then eventually once the plan is created and signed, I'm going to manage the communication. To manage the communication, I require the technology. What is technology? The emails, the phone, satellite phone, physical mail, technology, model, the same model, encode, decode, noise in between, send the feedback, communication method, interactive push-pull. We have discussed all of these together. Information management system is where whatever information that you have sent out, you need to maintain the records, right? So that tomorrow, if there is any dispute, you can always go back and say that this information I've already shared with you, right? So projects disputes might happen when the project is not going in the right direction. So we need to have the information management system and performance reporting about the communication effectiveness. Information management system will have the details of all of these: physical documentation, which is hard copies, the soft copies, and web-based interactive tools, which is standalone project management application, collaborative work interaction tools. Now, as we said earlier, project communication can happen non-verbal, verbal. So this is the different communications which is happening. Communication generally depends upon the requirement of a person and who exactly is requesting. For example, let's say if you have you have created a plan, your project plan, and shared with your stakeholders, your investors, saying that the project is going to take 1 year for completion, which had all the buffers built into it, right? So you have built all the buffers, you have shared the detail with your investor and said that this is going to take me 1 year and $100,000. This information, you might not want to share it with your team members, right? Because to your team member, you might have communicated the project has to be completed within 8 months. And the remaining 4 months, you don't want to communicate to them because once they know it, they are definitely going to utilize it. They're going to become slow, keeping in mind that it's okay, we already have time. You might not want to communicate it to them, right? So communication depends upon who's requesting, who has to know what, why it is needed, when do they need, and importantly, how it has to be communicated so that it is understood entirely in context by the receiver. Eventually, we need to go and control the communication. To control the communication, we need to find out from my experts if the communication is going in the right direction or not. Look at the information management system, and again, information management system might give me details at saying that a particular stakeholder is asking for information again and again, and probably his communication requirement is not taken care of. It looks like he's jittery, he's not comfortable. So I need to change my communication method, or I need to change my frequency of information to him so that he becomes much more comfortable, right? So this is how I would control the communication. Very short chapter, not a big chapter about communication. It was a short chapter that's it about communication management. Next is risk management, which we're going to get into. So risk management is all about the project generally gets impacted because of the risks which we have in the project. My project, there is no chance of success of a project, or there are chances, but there is no guarantee of a success of a project. Project might succeed, it might fail, right? Anything can happen to the project. Why the project might fail? It's clear, right? The project might fail because of various numerous factors. because of the known risks which can impact the project, and above all the unknown risks. Remember the first day, the video that we saw? The video was on, the video that we saw was on this one, Palm Jumeirah Island, in that 9/11 happened. Now, possibly nobody could have predicted that event, right? Nobody could have planned for that event, but that happened and impacted my project as such. So that is the risk management, managing the risks to ensure the positive outcome of my project is risk management. Risk, always remember, is not a negative event. It can be a negative, it can be a positive, right? So risk is something which has a potential of impacting your project both either negatively or positively, right? If it has happened, if something has happened, that's not a risk anymore, that's an issue, right? Unless there is, until and unless an event has not occurred, it is a risk. If that event occurs, that becomes an issue. So risk management, we need to remember that there are two types of risks. One is known risk and unknown, and the other one is unknown risks. We have these two types of risks, and the risk can be perceived as overall project risk and individual project risk. How do we define overall project risk and individual project risk? Let me take the help of a blank slide here. So risk one, you have identified different risks, right? Let's say you have identified 3 risks which can impact your project. There are only 3 risks that you've identified. Now there will be hundreds and hundreds of risks that you identify for your project. But I'm trying to make it simpler here. Risk 1, risk 2, and risk 3, these are 3 risks that you have identified. Risk 2, we need to look at the impact on the probability, right? This is called as the expected monetary value. Need to look at the impact on the probability. Impact is going to be, let's say, $100. And probability is 50%, right? So first risk is, this is your impact on the probability. Second risk is going to set you back by $1,000. And again, the probability is, let's say, 50%. Third risk is going to set you back by $5,000. And the probability is, let's say, 10%, right? So what is the overall risk that we have? This is the individual project risk. Individual project risk is the individual value of each and every risk. So what is the total project risk here? 50% of $50, $100 is $50. For 1,000, you have the $500, so $550 overall here. And the last one is 10%, so that is also $500. So overall risk on your project is $1,050, right? So that's your value of the total project risk. Now, this is something which I've calculated in terms of dollars. You can go and calculate it in terms of days. The only thing which is going to be changing is the impact. In terms of, instead of dollars, it's going to change it to days or weeks or whatever unit of measure that you're using for time. Okay. So that's your overall project risk and the individual project risks. There are 6 processes that we have in the risk management. It starts off with, we need to plan the risk management. Risk management has to be planned. So what is it that we are going to plan in the risk management? What has to be done and how it has to be done, right? So once the risk is, how we are going to identify the risk. From what all sources are we going to identify the risk, right? Whatever sources you have mentioned in the plan document, you're going to identify the risk only from that. Tomorrow's, if there is unknown risk which comes up, your stakeholder will not ask you, or cannot ask you rather, why didn't you take this source also? Why didn't you anticipate that this is another source? Whatever I anticipated, I've documented the plan document and you saw it. You had different ideas, you could have told it to me and I would have probably analyzed the risk from that source also, right? We took a collective decision that these are the right sources and we should be analyzing risk from these sources itself, which could be the lessons learned of the previous document, document analysis, stakeholder interviews, and so on. So that is what we do in the plan risk management. Then we mentioned how we're going to identify the risk. Once a risk is identified, how we're going to do the qualitative and quantitative risk assessment. Qualitative is when we assign a quality or when we don't assign a measurable number to the impact of the risk. That is a qualitative risk analysis. For example, what is the impact, low, medium, or high? We're not saying the impact is $100, $200, $150. We are saying low, medium, high, right? Quantitative, on the other hand, is where you are assigning a number, 15 days, 20 days, or $100, $200, a measurable number, right? So identify the risk, then how would you be doing these two, qualitative and quantitative? How would you plan the risk responses, till what limit the risk is acceptable, what is a value at which there will be that will be a kill point for the project if the risk is too high, right? So all of that will be planned. And then eventually you will plan the risk responses, and throughout the life of the project, you will control the risks, right? So this is how the risk management will go on. Risk management, to explain the appetite, tolerance, and threshold, give me a moment. Let me give you one video here, and then we will talk about the appetite, tolerance, and threshold. Give me a second. Hold on.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
give me a moment. I'm
Yeah.
sending you an email regarding the link which you need to use to watch a video. Please watch this video and let me know once you are done with the video, right? All right, perfect. So I've got the confirmation from everyone. Now, just to again put things in perspective, appetite is what is the risk that you're willing to take for positive outcome. So this is degree of risk which will be taken up in order to gain a reward, right? Variations are measured over the course of the project in both the lower and upper control limits to understand the stakeholders' risk appetite. Now, risk appetite, as I said, is the maximum risk that you want to take to gain a positive outcome. An example of that is, you know that your money might go down, but in anticipation of a positive outcome, you invest in stocks or funds. You buy company stocks. You know that there is always a risk the money might go down, but in anticipation of a higher degree of reward, you go ahead and take that risk. That is your appetite. Again, if the amount goes below certain thing, you start getting jittery. So risk tolerance is degree of risk which will be entertained beyond which the attention is required. If it goes down, you didn't want the money to go down. Plus or minus 5% was okay for you for a stock in a day for whatever stock that you have bought. But if it starts going down below 10%, you have lost only 10%. Now either you have to start selling off some of your stock to try and or need to buy more stock to ensure that the average of your buy value comes down. So that is the tolerance limit at which maximum limit beyond which you will start taking some action. That some action might not itself mean selling off entire stocks, right? Risk threshold is, so this is my maximum limit. Beyond 20%, I will not let my money go down. Whenever it reaches minus 20%, it's a stop loss. Automatically, my entire, I will come out of the market. I will not even invest for that day, right? So that's the maximum that I can lose. Extreme level of risk either on the lower side or the upper side. Crossing the lower side, the risk is absolutely negligible, and crossing the upper side, the risk will not be tolerated any further. I don't want to tolerate this risk. I want to get out of stock, so I will square it off. I will sell my stocks, book whatever loss that I've made, and come out, right? So that is my threshold. This is how these three are defined. And now let's look at the planned risk management. So when we are planning the risk management, we talk about we have the analytical techniques apart from the expert judgment and the meetings. What are the analytical techniques? Analytical techniques help understand the holistic view of the project. So one mechanism beneficial to diagnose and understand the tolerance and risk appetite of the decision makers and the stakeholders. This definitely helps to understand the amount of risk which can be handled and which need to be pitched as immediately escalation points on the project. So analytical techniques help you make a holistical decision about what is the risk appetite, what is the tolerance, what is the threshold, understand that so that you are able to plan for your project. A risk management plan contains a methodology, the roles and responsibility, the budgeting, which needs to be kept. How do you calculate the budget? Impact into probability, calculate for individual project risk, and then combine that, aggregate it all together. That becomes your overall budget that is required for the overall risk that you have identified for your project. The timing, additional time that you need to keep. Risk categorization also you can do. Risk categorization is it falling under cost, scope, where exactly your risk is getting impacted. Risk management plan generally contains the details of it contains the details, and also if you need to have the categories, so that later on it becomes easy to find out how did you go in and find out which risk is categorized as low, medium, high, and what would need to be done whenever these risks are categorized. So what we would be doing, if it's very low, for example, given over here is a template. If the risk is categorized as very low, and it would mean in scope, it would mean insignificant changes. That's how I would categorize the risks, so that there is no ambiguity at a later stage. So once the risk plan is prepared and is signed, I need to go and identify the risk. How can I identify the risk? I can look at the documentations, first of all, previous lessons learned document. I can look at the, I can also look at the contract. If you complete your project within 1 year, you're going to get 10% profit, 10% incentive, positive risk. If you are going to, if you are delayed by more than 1 year, there will be 10% penalty, negative risk, right? So documentation review. Information gathering technique is when you're speaking to your stakeholders to gather the information and find out what additional risks are there. Checklist analysis, typical example of checklist analysis is, now in your project you might be having a different checklist, but I'm taking a medical example here. So checklist of a medical example is, this is called as I am safe checklist. Normally if you go to a doctor, if you're not well and go to a doctor asks you about your illness, and then they ask if you're under stress, if you're under influence of alcohol, are you taking any other medication, do you have any allergy? So they have the checklist to find out what probably could be the cause, to build their own hypotheses. That is checklist analysis. Assumption analysis, you might have different assumptions. For example, different assumptions as in, let's say the dollar value would not change beyond 5%. If that's my assumption and suddenly an event like Brexit comes up, which will have a higher impact, in that situation, I need to analyze my assumptions and see that, are my assumptions still valid? Is that gonna, if looking at that, do we have any other risks which can come up, right? Diagrammatic techniques are, for example, fishbone analysis, your process flow diagram, those are the diagrammatic techniques, using which again you can identify the risks. SWOT analysis is strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. Strength and opportunity gives you the positive risk. Weakness and threat gives you the negative risk. And expert judgment, experts will also help you identify the risks. All these risks that you've identified needs to be documented into the risk register, right? All these risks needs to go into the risk register. Register is a document in which all the risks are documented, their impact is documented, their category is documented, how they categorized, internal, external, right? So all that category is also documented. As we said, documentation review is look at all the documentations. Information gathering technique, it is brainstorming, where you get all together and brainstorm. Delphi technique is, I hope you remember what is Delphi. Delphi is the keyword over here in Delphi as you send out the surveys, but it is the people are responding anonymously. That is Delphi. Interviewing, one-on-one interview, root cause analysis, all that is information gathering technique. Checklist analysis, I am safe checklist, illness, do I have any symptoms, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, eating, right? Am I adequately nourished or am I overnourished maybe, right? So am I eating too much because of which I'm fat, right? So that is your checklist analysis. Assumption analysis, what are the different assumptions based on which I'm conducting the project. That, for example, if I'm doing it in real estate industry, the steel prices will not go it will not go beyond 10%, will not exceed beyond 10%. The cement prices will not exceed by X percentage. Now, all that are my assumptions. Based on that assumption, certain risks will come out. Diagrammatic techniques such as Ishikawa fishbone diagram. Why it is called as Ishikawa? Because it was proposed by Dr. Ishikawa. This is also referred as cause and effect diagram and fishbone diagram. Flowchart, influence diagrams. These are the diagrammatic techniques, SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Once the risks are identified and the risk register is prepared, what do I need to do? I need to identify before I plan for the risk, what would be my response towards the risk. I need to identify the impact of the risk, right? I need to find out what will be the impact of each risk on my project. To find out the impact of the risk, I need to do qualitative risk analysis and quantitative risk analysis. Before we go through the qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, let's go ahead and take our first break of the day. Let's go and take 35 minutes break, and then let's get back after 35 minutes. All right, guys? Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. See you after
Okay.
35 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Yeah. Hi all, welcome back.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to do now qualitative and quantitative risk assessment. We're going to talk about the qualitative and quantitative risk assessment. We spoke about this sometime back as well. What is qualitative and quantitative? Qualitative is where we are not assigning any measurable number. A lot of times it happens when we analyze a risk or when we identify a risk, we are not able to assign a specific dollar or the time value to it. We say, if it happens, it's going to have a low impact on my project. If it happens, it's going to have a high impact on my project. So it's not a specific value which we can assign. For example, let's say if you're, if you're in a living in a society in a gated community, and if theft, in any kind of gated community, there is always a risk of theft, fire. These are some of the risks which can be identified, in any flat or any gated community that you live in. Now, if theft happens, can we assign a specific dollar value to it? No, we cannot. It might happen that theft only happens in one particular place, and it's not that we would be losing $10,000, $20,000. It's not like that, right? What is the probability? Probability is probably low or very low, depending upon the kind of measures that your society has taken. And if it happens, impact is going to be either medium or high, right? So depending upon what you have at that point of time in the house, it's not that always you're going to save jewelry in the house. Sometimes it might be in the bank. It might be at your house if you're next you plan to go for an event or something. So depending upon that, you cannot really assign a specific number to it. Now that is qualitative risk analysis, where you're not able to assign a specific number to it. Here, when we are doing the qualitative risk analysis, the tool and technique that we look at is risk, probability, and impact assessment. That's exactly what we were speaking about. What is the probability, low, medium, high, and what is the impact, low, medium, high. It could be low, medium, high. It could be very low, low, medium, high, very high. You can increase the categories the way you want. Even though at times you might assign a number to it. You might say if it is very low, I'm going to take it as 0.2, low 0.4, medium, let's say 0.5, and so on. So you're assigning some number, but that's not a measurable number. 0.2 is what? There is no unit to it, right? So in that situation, you might be converting it, but that still remains a qualitative risk analysis. So in the exam, if you see that kind of a chart, don't get confused. It's a qualitative risk analysis. We will also look at the probability and the impact matrix, risk data quality assessment. What is the, how much are we aware of that particular risk, and what is the assessment of the quality of the risk, known risk. Categorization, we categorize into different categories, risk, urgency, and assessment. These are some of the tools and techniques that we're going to use in qualitative risk analysis. So this is the probability and the impact assessment. As I was speaking about, if we see a probability and the impact categorized in different numbers here, we're giving some sort of weightages to the negative and the positive risk. Now, the one which is featuring in red, I might want to control it as a project manager. One featuring in yellow, I might want to delegate it to my tech leads. One featuring in the green, I might want to delegate it to somebody else, right? So who is monitoring what is also governed by what is the assessment of the risk. Then we have the data quality assessment. It talks about how much are we aware of the risk. So it's a detailed study of the supplementary data for each risk, helps ensure each risk is paid rightful attention. Risk categorization, from where is it coming, right? What is the source of it? What is the cause of it? Where is it going to impact? That is the categorization. Is it internal or external? Is it causing because of supplier? So what is the categorization of it? Risk urgency assessment, how urgent is it? Depending upon that, we assign certain type of different roles to take care of the risk. For example, in ITES environment, if any organization, if you have a major incident, any organization, if let's say the entire Outlook or the mail server, whichever you might be using, which could be a Lotus server or a Lotus Notes, or it might be your Outlook, whichever you're using, let's say the entire mail server is down. Now that's a major incident, but all the company employees are impacted with it. Who is taking care of it? Major IT manager. If it's just your workstation which is impacted, there's nobody else which is impacted with particular problem, then it's a low impact, and a minor coordinator will look into the issue. So this grid helps us assign the right people to the right job and keep everybody on board with the idea of that different urgency and impact risks will be handled by different people. If it's a small risk, don't approach me directly. It's not required. I'm not going to be looking at that. I've got much more important tasks to do, right? So this is keeping all the stakeholders informed about it. Next is quantitative risk analysis. The difference between qualitative and quantitative is here you are going to assign the number. Here you're going to assign a dollar value, a specific time period. For example, you have 5 resources in your team. One of the resources that you have is very critical resource. There is nobody else with that skill set. If he leaves, your project is going to be set back by 1 month, or the entire impact is going to be of $5,000. Now you can easily analyze the impact of it, right? What is the probability? Now probability you can assign in a percentage, 10%, 20%, 30%. You can assign some percentages to it, right? So that is a quantitative risk analysis. We are going to talk about the data gathering and the representation technique, how we gather and represent the data, risk analysis, and the modeling techniques. I'm going to get into the modeling techniques in a short while. So this is qualitative risk analysis, sensitivity analysis. Any risk, if has any risk has a both positive and the negative impact. If let's say the risk happens, you're going to lose certain money. If it doesn't happen, you're going to gain certain money. What is the money? For example, in your project, let's say again same resource. It's a critical resource. If he leaves, you're gonna be set back by, let's say, $5,000. But if he does not leave, you would have invested certain money in getting other people cross-trained. If he doesn't leave, then you're going to save the money for cross-training, right? You don't have to invest that money for cross-training. So you're going to get positive or the negative outcome both for any of the risks that we talk about. Common risk analysis techniques that we use is sensitivity analysis, expected monetary value analysis, and modeling and simulation. We're going to get into all of these together. Sensitivity analysis is the one which is depicted over here in the diagram. So from the exam perspective, this is also going to be called as the tornado diagram. right? It's also going to be referred as a tornado diagram, and it just says that this, the diagram will be given in the examination. It would be asked to you, what is this called as? Sensitivity analysis or tornado diagram, whichever is given over there, that's the right answer. Expected monetary value. All right, so before we get together with the expected monetary value, give me just a moment here. I'm going to give you one more video to watch, right? That video is about expected monetary value. It's a video about how do we calculate the expected monetary value. Now, this video is about if we should do a new business, or what is the business that we should do. Is it candy shop, or is it going to be a lemonade shop? So what is the business that we should do? How should we decide on that? It's the video on that. Give me a second, let me give you that video, and that video is very much related with the procurement chapter that we're going to discuss, and the same EMV gets discussed in the risk analysis, right? So give me a moment, let me give you the video link. It's a short video, watch that video, and then we can proceed further from there. Give me a moment here. This video is almost for 7 minutes. Go and watch the video and then let me know once you're done with it. You can speak up on the audio and let me know once you're done with it. I'm also going to be sending out an email with the video link. Yeah, I've sent the email. Go and watch the video and let me know once you're done with it. All right, so we all are done with the video. Now let me talk about the EMV calculation. So give me a moment here. All right, so let's get started. Now, this example that we have given over here, the highest EMV wins, right? The highest EMV always gonna win. Now, which is the EMV that we have over here that we're going to talk about? So how do we calculate the EMV in this situation? In this situation, what do we do is, let me just quickly get to draw something over here. Give me a moment here. Right. Now, for risk C, we have three outcomes. Right now, these three outcomes that we have over here, these are the outcomes for risk C. How do we calculate each of the outcome? So 65 implication is there if outcome 1 happens. The likelihood of that is 70%. Risk 2, 100 lakh implication will be there, and the outcome is 100 lakh implication with 10% probability. Third, only 30 lakh implication if this happens, but 20% probability. Now 70, 10, 20, add all that up, total should always come to 100%. This is all implication, right? So this is all implication. Which EMV is the best EMV over here? So total EMV, if you have to calculate, this will be minus 65. Implication is always referred in minus. Minus 65 into 70%, right? Risk C, minus 100 lakhs into 10%. And the third one is minus 30 into 20%. Right, so that becomes my overall implication of the risk C. Now let's look at an example here to be more clearer about it. Right, so let's see how do we calculate what is your investment decision based on the risk here. So here, this is a typical PMP exam question. They would ask you that what would be your investment decision based on the risk given out over here. Now, in this situation, how would we calculate it? What is given out over here? What is given here is the two options that we have, and both the options are: should we go ahead and maintain a product, the current product, or should we go for the new product, right? If we have the new product, my investment is going to be $60 million. So what is the investment over here? I have an investment of 60 mil. Investment is always referred in investment is not coming into your pocket, right? It's going out of your pocket. So this is always going to be negative. For new product, you will lose $60 million first, right? For your maintain, you will lose $30 million, right? So this is minus 30M and this is minus 60 million. Now, assuming both of these options are 50% chances, so this, okay, the chance I will talk about it, I think 70-30 is the ratio for the chances over here. Give me a second. Yeah, assume that the chances are 70% for this one. And 30% for weak sale. Again, for the new product as well, 70% chance is of strong sale and 30% chances is of weak sale, right? So this is your chances here. If strong sale happens, what is the money that you will get? Minus 150 minus 60, which is 90 mil is what you're going to gain here, right? 90 million is what you're going to gain. your income minus the expenditure, which is investment. If it is weak sale, then you're going to get 10 million here. So if it is weak sale, then you're going to get 10 million here, right? If it is strong sale here, then 30 million was investment, you're going to gain 50 million. However, if it is a weak sale, then you're going to get minus 10 million. How are you going to calculate the EMV now? It is 70% into 90 million plus 30% into 10 million for the first one. For the second one, 70% into 50 million plus 30% into 10 million. How it would look like? This is how it should look like. Right, so this is how it would be calculated. The same calculation that we were doing. And the EMV would be 70% into 90 plus 30% into 10, which is 66 million for the new product, right? For EMV for maintain is 25 million, the same calculation. Which is highest? Always remember, highest EMV wins. Higher EMV is for new product development. That is how we are taking a decision that yes, we need to go for the new product. We need to go for the new product here, right? Make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Any doubts, any questions?
No, Bhupin.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, so with this EMV calculation, I think we are on the top of the hour. We are done for today. We have a little bit of risk management still pending. EMV is, if you can go into, some more videos on internet, you can go to YouTube and find some more videos on EMV calculation. This is slightly important because this is same EMV calculation which features into two different chapters. One is procurement, another one is risk. You might have slight bit of confusion at the moment. You need to do more calculations, of course. That will happen when you're attending more mock exams. But then, yeah, at least understand the complete concept. And if you have any doubts, as I said earlier as well, don't hesitate to contact me, send me an email or reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to help you out. All right, then, guys, I think we are on top of the hour. Let's close the session for today, and let's meet tomorrow then.
Hey, Bhupender, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Before we close.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I was looking into the documents, the PMP, the one they have shared, the course material, and the course material I see on your slides, I think they are slightly different.
Yes, it is.
So okay, because I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it is slightly different. So the course material, they might have shared two different materials with you. One is the PPT, which they have, and the second one is the book. The book is the same one which I'm sharing.
I don't think they have shared the book. I think they've just shared the course material.
Okay. All right. So let me have this one send it out to you because this is the one that I want you to follow.
Okay. No, because I see the differences in what you're in your slides as well as with those documents.
Yeah, it is same. Content is same. Everything is same. It's just that there's slightly more details given out in this one, and this is the course material that we want people to refer to because this has much more examples and this has much more clarity in the details. The slides that we normally show is, I think they would have sent out the slides to you. The slides that we show normally doesn't have that many details because we have the whiteboard in which we can go ahead and write when the live exam, when the live class is going on. So right now I don't have the liberty of having a complete whiteboard in which I can write. So that's why I'm following the same slides which is there in the course material which I want you to follow. If it has not been sent out, I would have this sent out to you.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, then take care, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bhupender.